Hey guys, how are you guys all doing today? And thank you guys coming in for the last and final podcast for here for Black History Month. I'd like to thank all my incredible guests. We got Brandon Lucas, DJHolographic, LifeonPlanets, and Demuir in the house today. Some of my favorite artists in electronic music today. All four different artists on different points of their career and rise. It's really great to talk to you all and really speak about the kind of ups and downs of being a Black artist today. And Demuir, you've been in the game for a long time, but you just really started to kick off in the past, like I'd say 5-6 years of like just releasing bomb after bomb. Holographic, I mean, everyone's kind of been in the game for a long time. You guys all really started to have these great rises, and then the kind of pandemic hit, which I find, and also Black Lives Matters and all these kind of big moments for artists like us. Brandon, you've been I know you were doing R&B before and had been in music for a very long time, and have recently switched to house. Currently working with Dr. West with a House of West. So everyone here, I know Life. I'm gonna call you Life on Planet. Life. It's just easy for everybody. Everybody here. I know you went to art school and had been doing music for a while as well. Holographic as well. You've been a part of this Detroit legacy for a very long time. So firstly, I guess how we're gonna start with Demuir, right? You've been making music for how long, sir?
Just over 20 years.
Yeah.
20 years, man. Yeah. I started, that Detroit thing. You hear that Detroit techno? I heard that like when I was 16. And I just took it from there and I started making hip hop, got into electronic music. Did just vinyl, like, independent releases, because you only have to sell like 2,000 records, $5 a pop. And I'm here in Canada, so with the exchange rate, it was beautiful to be like 17 years old and selling some house records Donald Glode was playing somewhere around the world and just chilling. You didn't have to get into the social media game. I love that aspect of it back in the 90s. And then World Trade Center hit 2001. I got a divorce and I just said, I'm going to exit from music. Not a lot of people know this, but I exited from music for about 10 years. So between 2000 and 2010, I only came back in 2010, to get back into the craft and what I love. And I went full time in the last 5 years. Yeah.
Okay. So that makes sense then.
Yeah, man.
And I guess this is a great time for everyone to kind of introduce themselves a little bit more and tell their backstory. Brandon, do you want to tell us a little about yourself?
Yeah,
I'm just reading in the order that you guys are in front of me.
Sure. Yeah, I feel like my story is kind of mirroring his right now. I was in the R&B world for about 4 or 5 years in an R&B group called O&E. We were working with big names like Kuda Love and Divine Stevens, and we were touring everywhere. This was in the early 2000s, and I left the group at one point at the end of that, and finished my degree at USC at the Thornton School of Music, but then been on the business side of entertainment for the past 10, 15 years, about 10 years. 2010 is when I went back to USC, and here I am 10 years later, jumping right back into the music full time. And my roots are in R&B and gospel. Always been a fan of house music, electronic music for a long time. And it's just been a natural progression. And I would say everything that's been happening in the world and, where my life has brought me to this point has pushed my artistry back into the forefront, with having a voice and having a mission, now, which I'm excited about.
Holographic? Tell us the listeners hear your story and your background, please.
So I've been about music all my life, from both my parents being raised in Detroit. They're actually neighbors growing up, and my real name is Ariel. So they named me actually after the character from Footloose. They both love musicals. Bad movie though, in my opinion. The character is not a nice character, Ariel is, but I've been growing up listening to music all my life, listening to the radio. Technically, I'd be the generation a little bit later on after Electrifying Mojo, so I didn't get to hear him play live, but they still had his recording. So I grew up listening to that to age 5. But then now it's been like 10 to 11 years of DJing. And so music's been consistently there in my life. Now it's just more of the world knows.
Yeah. Life, you want to tell us about yourself? Where are you from, everything?
Sure. So I got into music while I was in art school. A friend of mine gave me a guitar. I started jamming, and I stopped going to class. And I left school. I started street performing, and I met a house producer, and he showed me, this whole other world of electronic music. About maybe a year after I started like busking full time, we got picked up by Wolf and Lamb and started touring with those guys. So that was probably back in 2014, and I haven't stopped doing the electronic music since. I'm doing things solo now and trying to incorporate more R&B and hip hop influences over the house now. So yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible to hear like how many of us have these kind of rich musical backgrounds and diverse musical interests, and then we all kind of landed on house music in the end. I know Demuir and Holographic being from Detroit. You definitely know dance music was black music, Ariel.
It was everywhere growing up. Like I didn't even realize house music was like just from Chicago and Detroit. My dad listened to it, so I was like, oh, this is my dad's music. Like this is it. That's their music.
That's how it was for me as well, actually. I mean, it's incredible. I know, for being from Detroit, to be part of such a rich musical tradition. Ariel, you've been, I know you're part of the kind of underground resistance, like the home that you guys go, the studio I actually stay at is underground resistance. Mike Banks is there, John Collins, and right across the street is I would say Moody Man's Palace, I would say the Purple Palace. Purple Palace.
Go. Yeah, and then right on the same street is the Hitsville, USA, and I live just around the corner from it. It's Motown's like right there. I'll drive by it every time I go to my studio. So having that energy, just remembering like this is what I want to do. This is what started here, and just driving by that, it's like I'm in the right place. I'm in the right universe. This is it. And so much legacy just consistently being built still at this time.
Yeah, and life, you were talking about Wolf and Lamb. I also was of that, the beginning of that, actually, at the old Marcy days. How much do you find collectivism being so important in driving and pushing your career, and kind of being part of a crew or being part of some kind of collective idea and taking your music to the next level?
Sure. I mean, I feel like even if it's just on the smallest level, like just scheming with the homies. Like I remember when I was living in Baltimore, like every week, me and my 2 close homies who also made music, we'd get together and we'd like make little videos for each other and help each other like listen to tracks and tell each other what we needed to work on and be like, okay, we need to do this, we need to plot here and plot there. I mean, if you don't have anybody, who's going to listen to your music? I mean, you have to have people around you to tell you and push you and drive you and help you just build yourself up. So I think it's the number one thing you need.
Demuir, I know when we first met, you were with Junior Sanchez. You guys are quite close, and I believe you guys have a label together, correct?
Yeah, we started a label called Culture, spelled with a K, and the premise behind the label was just to acknowledge that we got to keep the key roots of house music or electronic music for that matter alive, and make sure people of color and various backgrounds, diverse backgrounds that have contributed to electronic music are part of the narrative, and not necessarily what you see on most of the lineups today. Right. So that's really the premise of the label. It's been around, I want to say, just a little close to a year now, and it's been doing quite well.
So Demuir, I'm going to follow that up with another question that I'm then going to add to the group. Do you guys find being an artist of color to have more of a struggle breaking into the industry or being recognized as many of our counterparts are having the same amount of opportunities, both with releases and booking?
I'll jump in on that one. I think I think the music is the easiest part. I think, if you're making great music, everybody, and it's just part of the construct of this culture, right? The whole peace, love, unity, respect thing. As long as the music is why we're together, let's play it. I don't think anybody has a problem with that. From a bookings perspective, however, I find it very interesting that our music can be heard, but the people are not seen. And that piece really, I think we need to take an active. It needs to change more. And I'm not complaining necessarily. I'm just making an observation because I have been lucky to have, a number of prestigious bookings and being able to do this full time. I am grateful, but I do look around me, and I'm not an idiot. And the best brands, quite frankly, are diverse brands, and they always do well. So when people can see themselves in the billing, more of those people are seen in the audience, and everybody benefits. That's lacking in electronic music right now.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are all some of the most exciting musical acts I've been able to find in recent years. That's why I brought you all here today, and I
appreciate that.
Well, so many of your tracks, Life, everybody. I mean, Holographic, you light it up, girl. Brandon, we've really been able to make a really cool friendship in recent years, and the new strides that you're doing with House of West and the kind of new ideas of bringing in old and new faces to electronic music with a bigger kind of political scope. Do you want to tell us a little bit about House of West and what you're trying to do there and bringing in new Black artists, as well as with the purpose with Dr. West that you want to bring to electronic music?
Absolutely, yeah, and I'm just definitely honored to be even a part of the conversation. There's a rich tradition in house music and electronic music, and I think people forget that there's a tradition that's now. There's a noun story. It's not just a history, and I think a lot of times it's the legends and the people that we look up to are fetishized, and it's just like, that big DJ and that DJ, have you got that person? But I think there's some amazing artists like the ones we're talking to right now who are now and that people should know about. And I think it's also about representation and access and what you see. So Purple Label Sound, we're building it as a collective where we're going to be elevating newer artists of color, underrepresented communities, women, just different communities, just giving them better access. Because I think a lot of times it's access, it's funding, it's support, it's money. And I think a lot of times what's the problem with a lot of the problem with diversity in a lot of situations is just access and not being able to be supported. And you have to put food on the table, or you're sending your mama money. You can't just sit in your room and you can't sit in your bedroom and make music all day. You got to work. You can't spend money, $500 on mixing, because you gotta pay rent. You don't have that access. And I think that's and then marketing, so to get on those bills, you have to build a brand. And then that's how you attract a manager and the agent and the publicist. And to get that team to get booked, you got to make some noise, and numbers talk, especially in this digital world. So we want to help support the next generation in that regard. But with House of West, it's an extension of that, because we'll be able to, we want to bring together the biggest voices and the names together to show like, hey, this has been happening. And, we want to be a part of, kind of bring a revolution and a renaissance of sound and music and a recentering, I say, of house music for people of color, to not only so that people like us are given more visibility in electronic music space, but more people of color want to be at the shows and are fans of the music. So I think that's also a part of it. It's a double-edged sword, like Demuir said. Like, the more you see people on the Coachella bill that are Black, the more Black people are going to go to Coachella. You know what I'm saying? Baychella, I think, was revolutionary for, we're like, wait, what is the Sahara tent? Hey, a lot of Black kids from HBCUs are now like going to these festivals because they experienced Baychella, and now they want more of that. And I think that if we bring house music to the community, and it's not just hip hop, it's not just like I'm gang banging and slanging and dope thing, sometimes it's just feel good, it's wellness. And I think there's there's a love. I have this mission of love right now, where I think that if you just start with love, I think it's gonna spring out, and I think that that's the basis of the community, and it's the most inclusive community in the world to me. So I think that I just want to bring that more to my people.
Yeah, I want to. Can I add on to that? Like that passion is like hit me like so much, and like understand like Brandon, what you're doing is great, because if there are more people like that look like us out there, they'll be able to want to perform more. I know that's what happened to me. As soon as I saw a DJ, Super Dre, she's from Grand Rapids. As soon as I saw her up there, I was like, oh, you can do it? Okay, I can do this as well. Like instantly was hooked on DJing since. And that idea of like having that space and curating that space and time and financial gain to help out the artist is also like a mental thing, because I've been doing this for like 10 to 11 years, and I didn't think like you could, make it out there as a huge star DJ in 3 years. But now I'm looking at some of these rosters. I'm like, you've been only doing this for like, what, 2 years? And you're like headlining and stuff? Like that doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, there's a lot of kids who come out who are not of color, who are really good, by the way. Don't give them their props. But I feel that they have the budget, they have someone giving them that leg up so that they can break out on the scene, so that they can get those looks and they can get that representation, as opposed to traditionally more artists of color don't have that capital to get started, to get pushed out.
They do not. The capital or like the heart sense or the thoughts is like telling like, you can do this, you can do this. And I know being here in Detroit, like when we had like, quote unquote gatekeepers, I wouldn't even acknowledge that they're there, because I'm so in the habit of people like that and consistently throughout my whole life, not just here in the DJ world, but like at school or at work. These are things that are already consistently already there. So when I start realizing like people are telling like, oh, this guy's an asshole to you, like he's like, kind of blocking you from your career. And I'm like, what do you mean? And then I'm like, oh, you're pointing out a habit of somebody's personality that I'm used to. I'm used to a gatekeeper throughout my whole life. And so when people point those things out to me, I'm like, oh, well, that ain't right. Like, let's just push on through with my music and let the music speak for itself, because that will always speak for you much more.
Definitely. I mean, everything you guys have said, I think rings true to so many people in electronic music, not only people of color, but people breaking through. I mean, there's definitely, I think, a socioeconomic gap with electronic music that definitely changes the scope of both viewership and listenership, and the ability to go out to parties. I mean, it's definitely a larger middle class community of people who can afford or just really to either attend dance music events or to really get involved with music. I know for a long time it's kind of like music's like hockey or other sports. You need a lot of equipment and a lot of extras to play. It's not like just picking up a ball. It's like which often exits a lot of people from different social economic backgrounds or kind of sub-social.
Very expensive.
Yeah, it's definitely an expensive hobby. I mean, I got into it because I worked at the record store, and I spent all the money I could work at the shop on records from the shop. So that was kind of my entry point. So being right now all in lockdown, I mean, we all had this time where things were kind of really moving on the up for everyone, and now with kind of the pandemic and the lack of gigs and resources, and has this kind of stunted you guys' passion or kind of been able to continue in any way, or has it been a great moment of reflection and creation? How have you guys navigated being rising artists during COVID, and now with COVID being almost the end in sight? What are you guys' plans thereafter? And for the rest of 2021 and then into 2022. I know Life, you just did an amazing record with Afweekwa. Been playing it like crazy. That's my boy too. I wish we should have actually got him on the chat. He would have been great to be in here. Rising star as well, making some incredible music. Can you guys explain a little bit about the challenges that you guys have had in these past 2 years, and also like the revelations that you had during the protest of Black Lives Matter that gave you some even more purpose to telling your story and the mission of dance music and house? Like, maybe we start with you. You haven't spoken for a while. Sorry. I'm like moving around the wheel here.
I would say it's definitely ebbed and flowed. I mean, at the beginning of 2020, I had this track slated to come out called Glow Stick. It's all about party, and she just want to play with her glow stick. She ain't paying me no mind. It dropped, in the middle of the Black Lives Matter protests, and I'm just like, man, this music, I need to make something that's something about what's going on right now. I can't be dropping songs about partying at the club. So for a couple months, I, was just trying to refine that voice, and speak to the movement and speak to something that can inspire people to pay attention to what's going on. And so, working through that and working through my own feelings about everything going on, it took a minute. It was heavy, but I feel like I have some tracks coming out now that are very reflective of the pandemic. Gonna be playing them on Monday for you, Seth. You'll hear that. It's I feel reinvigorated, and able to speak and to put this emotion into the music finally. But yeah, it definitely felt like a pause for a while to just take a moment to reflect and just try to get my head wrapped around everything going on.
The more I've been buying more and more. You're kind of turning into a Paul Johnson. Every week I find a new one.
Well, that's man. Paul DJ, man.
Records are fire, man.
Wow. That's quite a compliment, man.
Paul. When we had Paul, we talked to Paul a couple weeks ago. His discography is over 12,000 records.
Oh,
That's
wow.
crazy. I hope he's got that registered for publishing, man.
Yeah,
I like seeing that passive income come in, man.
yeah. How has this pandemic affected you and your work? And you had said you had just in the last 5 years full time music, and then this kind of took over and hit. How has that really affected your kind of drive? Also, after being in the game for 20 years, has that kind of helped or hindered your kind of your movement towards being in this full time?
Well, I think with any craft, especially in artistry, you have to go all out. You can't be halfway here, halfway there. I mean, social economics and stuff aside, I'm just saying for the purpose of your artistry, I recognize that. I came from a 6-figure job, and I just said, like, this is worth it. Whatever comes out of it, it's worth it. So doing it full time, go all out. With the pandemic, all I saw was opportunity, personally, when I knew it would slow a lot of, fake people down, people who aren't really in it for their true artistry, people who use their gig money to pay for ghost producers to make music that isn't even their own. I just saw opportunity. So what I did is I grew all of my socials. I took my YouTube channel from 500 people to 2,300 today. In the last few months, I grew my Patreon, we're pushing towards another 200 there. I've set up a masterclass on production, done a number of those. So, and this is all whilst putting out music. So we have to look to history in these moments when a crisis happens, and if you find a way to push through it, you will be standing, on a pretty high level at the end of it, where people can't ignore you anymore and make all of these blah excuses. So I just continued to push through it, and I was very motivated by it because I just saw it as a really good opportunity to continue to just outpace myself as much as possible, grow within my own artistry and do things better, So I've been enjoying it personally.
Yeah, me too. Actually, I've made more music in the past kind of year than I have in the past 10. To be totally honest.
Right.
Yeah. Ariel, you just had one of your first records, your first release come out, correct?
Yeah, during July, during the pandemic. So it was my first time.
And how have you been navigating everything? How did that go? Tell us some more about your rising situation.
It's really good because it's my first time actually putting something out musically, and at the same time starting a label. So understanding the process and experience of it, because I went to music school, so I know, like, in theory, what happens. In theory, my ass. So, like, actually doing it, like, in life is not the same. Even having little moments of, like, are we doing everything right? Is everything going good? Like, how does the process happen? And you're just so excited to put it out there because you already finished it. And for me, it's like letting go of the idea of how people take it, because now it's out there in the world, and now, you know, people take it in different ways. And I've been getting such great feedback from longtime friends, people in the industry I didn't even think were looking at me, and just having more of a community based in producers. So that's been really helpful. Right now, I'm still doing a lot of music. Since we have the time, I'm able to write some songs, but mainly just kind of finding my sound. Because DJing, it took me for like 7 years to find my sound, like sound that I really enjoy, and then play around with it. And I think for, you know, producing, it could probably be the same amount of time of just learning of what I want to sound like and be my authentic self. And then I just have very soon, I have my first single come out soon. So, yeah.
The musical journey is definitely a lifelong journey. I mean, I've been DJing as well for 12 years, and I just feel like I'm just starting to figure it out.
Yeah, right? It's just like you're just kind of like, oh, this is me, but then this is not me. And then when you get older, you start realizing, like, was that me for them, or just like my inner child talking here? And with all this ground time, especially doing Black Lives Matter, it really made me like ground myself and figure out like my ancestor roots, like who am I, what's my soul need. I mean, I had nothing but time to just kind of like dig deep in any childhood traumas, any ancestry traumas, and just like root it out and just put it away. Because a lot of my feelings I could tell were not my own. A lot of my feelings of like betrayal or regret were like, you know, ancestors of like feeling that way, and I just kind of journal it out and start writing it in the music so far. So it's been a very good healing time for all of us. And we had the time and space to do it. So I just took it. I wasn't going to be just consuming. I needed to figure out, produce. I needed to kind of put it out there in words.
Yeah. Brandon, I know you and I kind of met during the lockdown, and we talked about a kind of invigorated purpose of kind of trying to bring together more artists of color and trying to find spaces for people like us. I know, Demuir, you and I had been speaking about this as well. There's some internal chats going on, people. There's some dialogue.
The movement.
Say it loud, say it proud. And there's some internal dialogues going on. And I know one thing we had all spoke about is how before all the pandemic and Black Lives Matter happening, it was so hard for so many artists like ourselves really to be able to find each other, to be able to have a dialogue with each other, and know that there is a greater community out there. I think it's still like a challenge that has yet to be met. However, do you guys feel that like at some point, if we could find a resource, if there was a resource out there where more people of color saw more representation and also saw a place for them to communicate with each other, that we could have, again, another rise in people of color being involved in dance music and creating almost a new community for everyone? Do you think that would be helpful in ways to create and kind of encourage new artists to get involved in this rich musical tradition and culture that we've been so able to participate in?
Man, yes, community is a key word, if I might say. I think that people, and I think the dance community, like I said, is ripe to do that. We just have to, I think, just like with any community, you have to be really intentional and bring people together and show them what it is, and also meet them where they are. I find that, you know, millennials, yes, but definitely Gen Z, they're so open, they're so smart, they're so down for whatever. I think there's a big, wide open opportunity where you can bridge those gaps between where hip hop and house meets. Because to be honest, you know, they say that, you know, the biggest audience of hip hop is white males, and that's kind of what house music is. And we know that, you know, Black people love hip hop as well. So why won't they like house music either if you just, you know, give it to them and market it to them? I think there's a lot of music that I hear from some legendary house music DJs and techno DJs even that I look up to, that I could hear on urban AC radio, to be honest, if they put it on there. You know, like, you know, I play stuff, you know, for my aunts and my her friends, like, oh, I can listen to this while I'm cooking. You know, I was leaving the gym with my aunt rocking, playing DJ Eclipse's rec album, and my aunt is in the, she was like, let it go. She's just like living it up in the car, and she's 60 years old, you know, like, so I think that if you put it in front of them, they will give it. And you're right, Seth. I think that this pandemic has really given us time to look at that and challenge our assumptions with a lot of things and go deeper. But what I want to do with our community, if we were to create this intentional community of color, just similar to how BET has something, you know, Revolt is about the Black hip hop thing. What do we have that's in a dance community? We don't even have a category at the BET Awards. I love the fact that they brought out those legendary, you know,
Crystal Waters and
Waters. Yeah, that was amazing, yo. I was like, what? We need to be recognized more, and there's so many amazing, legendary house music DJs who've been around way longer than we have, who need to be recognized. And I think that, I think if you bring it to Black people, they will listen to it. I mean, give them a little bit of words. They're great. You know, like, give them a little, they're good, you know? I mean, I know a lot of the tastemakers don't want words, you know, but like, I'm a singer, so I'm gonna give you both.
I love vocals. Bring them all in.
I'm all about bringing back the vocals too. Or you ain't afraid of no vocals, and like you were a vocalist. So
and it's kind of annoying, right? Where they would use some old school gospel sample that, I just thought it was real cool. Like, dude, do you know my I've seen my grandmother literally,
oh my God, yes,
Holy Ghost in church seeing her crying her eyes out to the song. And we're just, I mean, that's fine. I love it that at first we're bumping it, but after the 5th time somebody uses something, I'm like, wait a minute, like, do they know what this is really about?
Do you know Kirk Franklin? Like, what's going on?
You know, like Kirk Franklin is a dream collaboration, by the way. Like, get him on a house track, he will murder it. You know,
man, it was incredible. Tony Humphreys actually played this Kirk Franklin remix. When we on the podcast, the video cast we did for Beatport at the beginning was like, I was like, what is this? And they're like, Kirk Franklin.
I heard that, and I was like, this is my song.
Right, and we all grew up in it, no matter what your religion is. And I think and a lot of my music now in this pandemic has manifested into deep gospel per se. I think I liken myself to like that Prince D'Angelo vibe, this intersection between the gospel and sex, you know, to be honest. But in this world we are right now, I think we just need to, you know, we're dealing with loneliness and mental health and lack of love in the world, and a lot of my music centers around that deep gospel. That I think, this is my granny calling me. A lot of my music centers around this like deep gospel sound, where, you know, I want to touch people. The first time I was at a house music event, I felt one with God, to be honest. I felt really connected. The music really reminded me of how the music moved in the church. And that's what really got me connected to house music back in 2010, I think.
Same here.
You know, like, ooh, like that chord progression reminded me of a Fred Hammond thing. Like, okay, like praise and worship, you know?
That actually brings me on to a great question, and something that's come up in all of the talks I've had, especially with Tony and Ron, and then again with Paul and Kay. How many of you are from a gospel background? I know my grandfather and my uncle, both Baptist preachers. I came up kind of somewhat in the church. How many of you were very deeply also inspired by church music and the gospel tradition of music?
I'd say somewhat. But my dad's a minister and he's classically trained as well. So I mean, I'm from Trinidad, so we sort of parlay between the religion and the African roots. I have to say, it's interesting what's happening with Afrocentric house lately, like the raw stuff. I'm really enjoying that, but that's always been around in my household for sure.
Wow, that's so interesting. And Life, you said you as well.
Yeah, my grandfather was a pastor, and so yeah, I cut up in church. Man.
So it's always those kids, man.
My grandfather was a minister, but also my grandmother on both sides. They were always like the main women pastors. They head of this, running that. My dad was like the first person at the church, last person to leave. You know, we used to go to these church conventions that actually Channel Trace used to go to. That's he knew we met, you know, just out and about in the industry, but we connected because we realized that he knew my younger brother, who he was like, my brother's like super really involved in like the gospel music church area. He knew my brother through church. So that's how we connected. So it's crazy.
Yeah. For me, we're just going to church every Sunday. I didn't have any family technically like part of it, other than like church is like a huge thing. You go to church, you learn what's going on, you make some jokes with the pastor, but then afterwards we had, you know, dinner in the bottom of the basement at the church, and so you kind of have that community space. And when you guys are talking about like us as like, you know, our culture needing more space for the community, that's where a lot of these like youth would go to. They actually would have dance parties in the basement of churches because they didn't have anywhere to go. I know my dad did that when he was younger. When he DJ'd for 2 years in the 70s, and that's what he would DJ in the church's basement for a while. So it kind of goes full circle, honestly. Like if you have a safe place to play and dance, that's what you do. And I honestly could not stand waking up on my day off on a Sunday and going, but the music was great.
Yeah. Sunday school in the morning on Sundays was not the vibe when you were
No.
a kid.
I'm like, I have one day off and it's only Saturday. What happened to my Sunday? It's like, nope, you wake up early, don't get in trouble Saturday night.
Oh, wow. Incredible. No, it's been so incredible to talk to all of you guys. And I know we've got a really condensed show this week. I mean, and kind of going over all these kind of incredible topics with Black music and speaking about all your careers. I hope everyone kind of really checks out all the music and the Beatport pages for everyone here. I mean, you can find a lot of jams. I mean, so much music I've been playing from everybody. I mean, more coming out from Lucas and Holographic, but Life and Demuir. Huh? Yeah, you just sent me a new one. You just got a new one coming out.
Love No Limit just coming out. It's my electronic soul rendition of a Mary J. Blige throwback 90s record. You guys know Love No Limit, so that's coming out.
Also check out our record. I got that Hope with Dr. West. I did an incredible remix for Brandon and the crew over there. And so I think right now, just to kind of wrap things up, is there anything everyone wants to leave the listeners and leave this Black History Month, speaking about our culture, about our artistry, and about ways that you can support people of color and in their daily lives as well as their musical lives, and kind of encourage more people of color to come forward and be part of this, or how people in the industry can make an impact in kind of bringing more kind of inclusivity to dance music.
I know. I definitely want to say something about the people that feel and look and grew up like us, in a way of just like think of wherever you put in intention wise. Think about it being a generation that you will never meet will love what you're doing. They will be inspired from you, and you will never meet them, but they will be inspired. Like I said, Electrifying Mojo. I'm so inspired. I've never met the soul ever. So it's a big deal. Like even right now, I'm about to like cry because he's such a big influence, from him being a radio host to him bringing Prince to Detroit. Like Prince wouldn't be as famous without this radio host. So whatever you're doing, just do it with intentions. And I mean, we can have a list of how, you know, the industry can do better, but as long as you're filling it out there, like it will be felt, and generations that you will never see will know what to do next, honestly.
Beautiful words.
Yeah.
Anyone else got it?
This a while back about the connection and trying to, find all these artists of color that are out there and support each other. I don't know, if we can make that virtual Tulsa, Oklahoma, the Black Wall.
We've been talking. We've been still talking about that. It's on the play. That's why I threw it in the combo.
Yeah. But I think the main thing that I've been craving throughout this pandemic was just a Black mentorship. I feel like coming into the scene and playing at these parties, and I just felt a lack in that area, and I started seeking out more Black house artists, Black DJs in the scene to try to just figure out a way to keep it moving forward, and I'm thankful for the Soul Clap Boys introducing me to you, Seth, and we had connected before, but now we yeah. And so if there's any bigger guys watching this show right now, I would just say, let's connect. I'm saying, reach out to the young bloods out here and help us, figure out how to make our way. So
we got a great mentor in the chat as well, who's making his way. Demuir in the house. Demuir, is there anything you like to finish out and say with us?
I think to echo what Brandon and Ariel were saying about intention. It's intention and operating from a space of love before everything is vitally important for all sides, for us as artists, for the people who consume this music, to the organizers of festivals, to the PR people, agents. We have to use this moment of the pandemic and George Floyd's life and Black Lives Matters, all of that, as a solid pause to say, if we all paused at that moment, and I know we did because a lot of people put black squares up, but let's take it beyond that. What the way I judge character is in the consistency in the intention of your actions. And it's caused me, like I've literally said, you know what, I'm not giving that label any music anymore. I'm not gonna clamor to people and say, hey, I gotta play the game. Like if I think, listen, man, if I think you're using the word inclusive wrong, I'll let you know. And I have done that a number of times, and everybody knows who I'm talking about. And you notice it's no longer in the narrative. But those are the tough, from a starting place of love and accountability and commitment. We have to continue for all sides of this piece of the pie. Like, I know I need to do more by reaching out to Black artists because I haven't done it enough. I was so focused on myself and and where my music, what labels I'm signing to. Well, all that's out the door. Because at the end of the day, if you're coming with great music, people don't care. Like to Brandon's point on Generation Z, and Ariel's point in terms of you doing the things for people you probably wouldn't even meet, that means a lot more to me. And I think that holds a lot more cachet than anything else. And it'll ultimately get us the results we're looking for, I believe.
I believe so as well. I believe definitely we're on you guys are all on a meteoric rise, and I think those shooting stars aren't going to have any time to stop soon. Brandon, final words here.
Really quick. I would just to sum it all up, this exact energy with bringing more supporting Black artists. I think one thing that we could do is also support a pipeline of Black executives and managers and agents in that space, because I think that in the hip hop world, you have Black people who are heads of this and A&R this, and they can give a little eye to that. No matter how well-meaning our friends are not Black or whatnot, and they want to help, sometimes it's just that like he said, like Life said, like having someone in the room who gets it, just makes that much more of a difference. And that's how, Tano Tress and I met. We were like the only ones in the room. So it was like, immediately. But but there's not enough of us who are agents and managers and A&R people. So, those decisions to make, oh, this is hot or not, it's a little bit, we're missing that diversity in the room to really bring it to the forefront in the right way. So yes, let's elevate artists, but I want us to be thinking about that as well.
That's an incredible words from everyone here. I think we've really made some great points throughout this whole series, and I hope so many people have been able to benefit from hearing us talk. So many people get into this conversation, or I've gotten comments. I've gotten the most positive commentary like ever about these talks. However, I have also had some backlash of people kind of thinking that Black History Month and these conversations about Black artistry and Black musicians in some way is a way to like a racist intention. But by no means are we singling out anyone. And we are actually the most inclusive of everyone. And we just want to open up the conversation so you can also hear the stories of many other people outside of maybe your communities and listen to the plights of ours. So I'd like to thank all the listeners who've tuned in every week and all my guests who really showed the great legacy and history of Black music and techno music and house music, which is Black music. You know, at the end of the day, Black music matters, Black lives matters, and Black fees matter. No, I'm joking. But no, I'd just like to thank everyone for tuning in and showing us so much love. It's been a really incredible journey, and I hope this journey doesn't end soon. I know I've got some more things cooking, and I know you guys are going to hear a lot more from us. So thank you guys so much. And now enjoy all these great artists playing some great sets, and we're going to be really excited. So we got 2 live sets coming up from DJ sets. And yeah, a lot more fun. So thank you guys so much, and God bless everyone. Thank you.
Respect.
Thank you.
You guys.
Yeah.